it's your girl, Dia Direct. Welcome back to the Superpower Podcast. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Dia Direct, and welcome back to the Superpower Podcast, where women of power and women with powerful stories testify. And today we have a powerful sister in the house, Dr. Faith Robertson. Listen, she is an oral surgeon, an author, a businesswoman, a mom, a wife, and so much more. And everything looks amazing when you look at her resume. But how many of us understand that there's always a story behind the glory? And today we're going to get into it. Welcome to the Superpower Podcast, Dr. Faith.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be sitting here with you.
I love it. Listen, so I want to just get like a quick understanding of like your journey to becoming a doctor. Was it a dream that you always had? Were there some challenges getting there? Like, what was it about becoming a doctor that drove you early in your life?
I have to say, it was my mother and my brother. My brother was already in dentistry when I was in high school. And my mother said, I want you to really pay attention to your brother's journey, and I want you to follow in his footsteps. So I started working in his office when I was in high school, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I knew in high school that I would go into dentistry, but it wasn't until I got to dental school that I said, okay, I'm attracted to surgery. I just loved getting in there, seeing the beginning and the end and the whole transformation of the patient. I loved it. The trauma, all of it. So that's when I decided to pursue a career in oral surgery.
Okay. So, what was your official title as a physician in oral surgery? Because I know it's sort of a long title.
It is an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. And that just means all up and through here. The teeth, the jaws, all of that. Oral and maxillofacial surgeon. And when I actually got into my residency, there were only two oral surgeons, Black female oral surgeons that were practicing in the nation during that time. So I was one of the first to, pioneer in this, definitely.
Now, I already knew that I was attracted to your spirit, right? And I enjoyed you as a woman and all of your glory, but I didn't know that you were a fellow bison. And so now I really understand. Right.
Exactly.
Ate you all day long.
Yes.
So you did your residency at Howard.
At Howard, I did. I was really hesitant in pursuing oral surgery. Because like I said, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to look up to and say, okay, how do I do this? Because, just keeping it real, it was a white male dominated field. And it just wasn't a lot of us for us to, walk in those footsteps. So I was intimidated. But Howard was one of those places that opened the doors and said, hey, we welcome you. We will train you and you will be one of the best. And hey, they opened the doors for me.
I love that. And so now, you are, I know that not only are you a physician, but you're an author, you're a businesswoman. You even, at a point, dabbled in, makeup artistry and so on and so forth. So kind of walk me through this journey of how do you go from being, a thriving surgeon to a minister of the gospel to an author to all these other slashes that you have on your life.
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have? But I'm going to walk you through it. I didn't plan to do any of this. Anything that I'm doing now, the speaking, the being an assistant pastor, all of that. I didn't plan any of that. I was just happy in practice. I've been practicing 20 years, a successful practice when God gave me one word. He said, go. Go.
Go where?
I'm so glad you sassy like me because that's exactly what I said. I said, go where and do what? And he said, go get my daughters. Well, to back it up, I've always had an affinity of seeing women win, pouring into them. I mean, since I was a young girl, that was just me. That was just my personality. So when he said, go get my daughters, it made sense, but it didn't make sense. Because all while I was in practice, he said, I want you to get this coaching certification. I want you to go get your chaplaincy license. I want you to write your first book, Speaking by Faith. All while I was in practice, I didn't quite understand it. But when he said, go, I knew that he was putting things in my tool belt that I would need for the season that I'm in right now. So the transition made sense, but I went kicking and screaming because I was not ready. I was not ready financially and I was not ready emotionally. I wasn't ready mentally because that's all I knew was school and practice. So whenever God separates you from something that you've been attached to, it's a grieving process that goes with that.
You ain't lied yet.
So I had to grieve my career. That took a whole year.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, you better than me.
Yes, I had to
I feel like I've been grieving for a whole decade.
I was grieving my career because I felt lost. Then I thought I missed God. But I have to put my husband in the equation because I had to go home crying, saying, babe, God told me to close my practice.
Let's stop for a second.
Yes, let's park right there.
When you say, God told me to stop my practice, how did you hear that? How did that voice message come through? And tell me about that. Was it a moment? Was it a series of pushes? What was that?
Yes, and I talk about it in my book. I heard loud and clear, go. But I ignored it because I'm like, I have too much going on right here. I'm trying to buy some property and get my little retirement plan going. So I ignored it. I don't suggest that you ignore a command from God. Because after that, within a 2-month span, the roof started leaking in the building. It leaked on my $25,000 x-ray machine. The floor, a crack went straight through the floor, up the wall, foundation shifted. The landlord went up on the rent. My right-hand girl quit. Patients started canceling. Insurance companies started denying claims. And I'm a specialist. They don't deny claims for a specialist. When they come to me, you kind of got to have the surgery. One thing after another, after another, after another. When I say the brook dried up, so there I was sitting in my office on a day when all my patients had canceled. I sent my staff home. I sat in the floor and I just cried. And I said, God, I hear you now. What do you want me to do? He said, close it. So then I have that conversation with my husband with tears in my eyes because we are a 2-income household. And I'm making a comfortable 6 figures every year. So I'm about to pull that out of our household. And I went to him crying and I said, babe, I don't have a plan. I get emotional just thinking about it. I don't have a plan. I don't have retirement, but I know I heard God. And my husband said, baby, if God told you to close it, then I got it.
Okay, hold on now. First of all, I think we need to park right there because there's not too many spouses who would do or say that. So that must mean you have a good picker.
Oh, baby, the best.
Because that's a lot.
The best. The best. For a man to believe in the God in you and that you hear God and knowing how it's going to affect us. But he's saying, I got it. That was 7 years ago. And he's always got it. And every time I'm in front of somebody, in front of a crowd or speaking at an engagement, I always have to acknowledge my husband because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this. It's because of his love for me and his belief in me and his encouragement that I can do this. He's allowing me to do this. And I've asked him several times, babe, you need me to get a job? Babe, you need me to go back to practice? Babe, I check on him financially. I got it, babe. When I don't have it, I'll tell you. But in 7 years, he hadn't told me.
I love it.
Yes.
Now,
I love it too now.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it now.
But when didn't you love it? I want to know that.
Yeah. I didn't love it that first year out of practice when I thought I'd missed God. When my family was thinking I was crazy, when everybody was laughing at me, you gave up your practice to do what? And God said, what? And you still have student loans, but Lord Jesus, God canceled the student loans. I mean, there's just testimony after testimony how he just had me along the way. But like I said, I didn't like the process because I'm used to doing, I'm used to producing. So I was just sitting. But that was the time when God was downloading information and instructions for my next. It was in that valley experience that God really started speaking to me and say, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. Because I was lost. I was lost spiritually. I was lost emotionally. And like I said, I'm a doer and a thinker and I make things happen. I couldn't make anything happen. My savings is dwindling. So I'm like, Lord, what do I do?
Let's talk a little bit about pride, ego, and embarrassment, if any of that existed. The reason why I say that is because I know when they're through times of transition, I know personally, sometimes it's not even what other people are saying. It's the story that you're telling yourself. It's how you feel. It's how you've identified yourself professionally, because so many of us find our identity in what we do. You said you're a doer. And when you've worked as hard as you did to become a physician, much of who you are is, your identity is connected to that.
Absolutely.
How people know and experience you is connected to that. And there's a certain, pride that you have about that, And so to have to make that shift, and then to see how other people maybe potentially treat you differently. Talk to me about that part of it. Because for me, I think that war within my own head, and then also seeing how people responded to me different outside of the profession that they knew me in, that was really humbling for me.
Oh, gosh. When you talk about pride, there's so many layers to that question. I'll start off with the pride. I didn't even know that I was operating in pride when I was in practice. But during that valley season, God had to tell me that, you were operating in what I call a money pride. You would just throw money at things and make it go away. You didn't call on me. You called on your checkbook. That's how you handled things. Now you have no choice but to turn to me. So that was one lesson that I got in my valley. And that humbled me immediately, because you have to depend on God. Who else you got? People leave you in that valley experience.
That's when you find out who your friends are for real, which is a hard pill to swallow.
Hearts of people are exposed when you're at your lowest. And that's a painful lesson, like you said. That's a painful realization to come through. Be like, I thought you, and you said, and I thought.
It's always been good.
It's exactly. But God, that's all I can say. Because even in that valley, as he was telling me that I have something in you that my daughters need. And this is part of it. This is part of your story. I'm still writing the story with you, with tears in your eyes. And I know I'm still writing the story. Because you're going to have to tell it, because I'm transitioning a lot of my daughters and they don't want to go because of fear, because of the embarrassment that comes with it, because you're going to go through a season where you're confused, where you think you have missed God. I need you to tell this story. So he was breaking me to remake me. And we don't like to get back on the potter's wheel and all that reshaping and this and that.
Because it feels like you're starting from scratch.
You're starting from scratch. The valley, that low place, that's scratch. That's scratch. We're just going to call it what it is. That's scratch.
What did you learn about yourself in that valley?
Wow. I learned that I don't have to figure it all out. I lost that control freak nature. Because when you're in practice for 20 years and you're the surgeon and you're HR and you're hiring and you're firing and you have employees,
making all the decisions.
You have to be in control. I had to relinquish all of that. That's a dying process. My plan had to die right there. What I had laid out for myself had to die right there. So when we don't like that, because it's a slow process. It's a slow process, but it's necessary so that he can give you life. The new life that he really wants for you to walk in, that's where that happens. And we want to rush the process. You can't rush it. We want to come out of the cocoon.
Why we can't rush it?
Because you come out and you undone.
Because it's ugly. We don't like this.
Exactly. I was doing a talk. When you take the butterfly out of the cocoon too soon, you actually kill it because its wings can't handle the atmosphere. It can't elevate. It has to go through that dark, painful process where it gets tight. You're by yourself, because God calls one person. It's not a conference call. He didn't put me on Zoom and say, here's your team, and they're going to help you through this process. He called me, and he didn't even call my husband. But when you're one, my call is his call. But he called me. So he had to break me, remake me, train me, form me, get me ready, then send me out there. Because next comes the climb.
I want to get to the climb, but tell me, because there's somebody right now, especially in this climate that we're in, there are so many people who are being shifted. And it's, unceremoniously, I should say.
Yes.
And so, you're not prepared for it. Everybody doesn't necessarily have the spiritual ear to hear, or the eyes to see, to discern that something is coming, or there's time for a shift, or just simply the obedience because you're in your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And so there are a lot of people who are stuck, who are scared, who are mad about the change, the shift, the low place. And they want to give up. Did you ever have a time where you were like, I quit. I don't want to do this. Like, I get it, but because, right now, to me, you sound like this amazing, obedient vessel. I know for a fact that I have stunted my own process and caused, you think when you're taking control back, you're going to make it go faster because I get tired of waiting. But ultimately, you end up prolonging what God is trying to do in your life. And so I probably had to go back to scratch many times more than I should have, because I was like, listen here, you are taking way too long. I don't like this. Permission to leave, please. I would like to cancel this appointment. I don't want to be there. Did you ever want to give up?
I gave up daily in my mind. I quit daily in my mind. I didn't want to do that. I felt like I put all my energy, all my money, all my time into being a surgeon, and I loved it and I was good at it. Now I'm sitting here in this room and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where you want me to go. And you keep saying, just trust me, daughter. Just trust me, daughter. And it was times that I couldn't even hear him. But that is when the transformation is really taking place, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. One day my husband asked me, baby, what do you want? I said, I just want to stop crying. I just want to stop crying. Because when you are an adult, you feel lost. That little girl comes out. Be like, you're asking the Father, what is it that you want me to do? I don't have anything else. I'm down to nothing. And his answer is perfect. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I didn't want to do that. But as we fast forward and we're going up the climb, then I start to see, okay, all right, now it's making sense. Okay, let me wipe my tears.
Okay. When did it start making sense for you?
The first time, well, first of all, let me back up a little bit with the climb. I still felt lost, but I knew I couldn't stay in the valley. So I said, God, what's my next step? How do I do this? He connected me with a coach. I've always had a mentor, but I've never had a coach. I invested in a coaching program, a year-long coaching program. And when I tell you, that's where I got my clarity, that's where I got my focus, that's where I got my accountability, and that's where I got my momentum. So it's funny that I'm in the coaching sector now, but I see the necessity of it. So I'm just not trying to put somebody in something that I have not benefited from and experienced myself. So had it not been for me connecting with a coach, I would probably still be lost, because sometimes you need somebody who has walked that climb to say, go this way. No, do it this way. There's a cliff right there. Go back this way. And that's what helped me through my climb.
I still think that says a lot about you, though, because I, too, have gone through coaching and also am a coach. But I think when you have been the boss, when you have thrived, there's something that has to happen inside of you to humble yourself to say, even though I am strong in this area, I might still need to grow in this area. And I always like to tell people and share, it's like going to the gym. Your arms may be strong, but unless you're also working on your legs, they're going to be weak. And so you can be that woman on this side, but not necessarily on that side. But making that transition, easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
Was that hard for you to submit to somebody teaching you something in a different lane?
To be honest with you, I was so grateful that somebody was helping me. That part wasn't hard because I was already broken. I was already broken. I had already gotten out of my own way, and I was wanting the help. asking for the help, asking God to show me my next. We have to understand that everybody's next level is attached to a who. So I said, God, show me my who. Who is that person?
No, break that down just a little bit more.
Your next level
is attached to a who.
Is attached to a who. We can't do it by ourselves. Like you said, we don't know it all. We haven't seen it all. And when God is shifting you, you need help. You need direction. There's always a who. One person that you're supposed to connect to. I would not be an oral surgeon had my instructor, he was my who. Dr. Roger Alexander, I'll never forget him. He was my who. He said, I know you're scared, but I will help you in this process if you just say, yes, let's do it. It's always attached to a who. So I met my who. I invested financially in my who. I took out a loan to invest financially because he had what I needed. He was doing successfully what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to do it because I had a meeting with just one person, a female, and I just told my story, just the part that I had experienced. And she got a breakthrough. And that was God saying, you see the power of your story? It ain't pretty, but you got to tell it. And tell it for real. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell them how your bank account was in a negative. And you still a doctor. And you can't afford to go get your nails done. But you are trusting me.
That's good.
Tell them. Tell them.
Is that hard to do?
It was. Because the embarrassment. The embarrassment. For 20 years, I ain't never thought about money. I was on everybody. And then you get to this place where you either have to feed your child or put gas in your car. Because since we keeping it real, during all of this, my husband makes a bad business decision. And guess what? He has to go away for 33 months. So now I'm a single mom. Now, this is before I left practice, working my practice, another man's practice, flying to Lubbock, working another woman's practice, just to keep all the boats afloat, all the balls in the air. Embarrassment. To finally, I let all the balls go because it was killing me. It was killing me. So while God is training you, life is lifing. And it ain't always pretty. But how are you going to come out of it? Because me and my husband, we've been together 25 years. We're supposed to be a statistic. Because when a spouse is incarcerated, typically you don't come back to that same marriage. Because he's different and I'm different. Scratch. Starting from scratch.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because I think as women of power or women who have powerful stories or women who aspire to be powerful, that relationship piece always gets challenged because I know a lot of women who aspire to be in marriages, who have really put a lot of time and energy into their careers, have challenges with respect. Of men because they've been the masculine energy. And I just want to lean a little bit or glean from your wisdom in that journey because I think as women, we give each other a lot of grace. It becomes very difficult for some reason to give men grace when they fall. We don't always remember their humanity. But I think also when you're in a relationship, in marriage in particular, the stakes are higher because what they do, the decisions that they make, also is a reflection on you. And it impacts you not only emotionally and spiritually and physically, but in financially, socially, like all those things. So I want you to just share a little bit about that season. And then when your husband came home, were you challenged with respect? Because I know just keeping it real, there's times when my husband makes certain decisions, it makes it hard or I'm mad. And it's not easy because what you do is not just affecting you.
Exactly.
It also affects me. And it doesn't always seem fair. And I know a lot of women struggle with that. Can you help us?
Well, let me tell you. Let me just
girl.
Listen, Linda.
Listen.
Yes.
Linda is listening. You said sometimes you need a one. Holla at your girl.
Woo! Okay. The way that I found out that my husband was going through some legal challenges. Now I'm with this man and we're always together. We're in the same bed every night. I never knew that he was dealing with something, which lets you know that I was off focus. I was too busy building a practice, building my reputation, making money, banking checks. That was my focus. One morning, I'm getting ready to go to the office. I'm in a t-shirt. We hear this boom, 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 boom at the front door. He sits there just like you. And I look at him and I went to the door. I peeked out. There were men in white suits. No, I'm sorry. There were white men in suits covering my entire front lawn, maybe about 10.
Not your lawn.
Yeah. Yep. And then had car. And I looked past them. There were cars that had blocked off my street. You couldn't get to my house or leave my house. And there was a female agent as well. FBI, open up. I opened the door. They pushed me out the way and told me, sit down. I sat on the couch next to my husband, who at this point has not even moved. And I looked at him and he looked at me and his eyes started to well up. That's how I found out that he had made a bad business decision. That was the beginning of what I'm calling the end.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Dia Direct. Welcome back to the Superpower Podcast. Make sure you tell your friends and your friend's friend to tap in, subscribe to the Superpower Podcast on Dia Direct TV on YouTube. That's DEYA Direct TV.